The year was 605 BC. It was a time of great upheaval and change, a period marked by the rise and fall of empires. The world was in turmoil, and the fate of many hung in the balance. Nebuchadnezzar, the mighty king of Babylon, had conquered Jerusalem. His armies were relentless, sweeping through the lands with an iron fist, leaving destruction in their wake. He took many Israelites captive, dragging them from their homes and families, forcing them into a life of servitude in a foreign land. The pain of separation was immense, the future uncertain. Among these captives was a young man named Daniel. Despite the chains that bound him, his spirit remained unbroken, his resolve unwavering.
I was from a noble family, raised in the traditions and teachings of my ancestors. My upbringing was one of privilege, but also of responsibility. Intelligent and faithful to God, I was taught to value wisdom and to seek understanding. My faith was my anchor, my guiding light in the darkest of times.
Imagine being taken from your home, the place where you grew up, where every corner holds a memory. The pain of leaving behind everything familiar, the fear of the unknown ahead. Imagine being forced to live in a foreign land, surrounded by strange customs and languages, the sense of isolation, the struggle to find your place in a world that feels alien. Daniel faced this challenge with courage and faith. He did not let his circumstances dictate his actions. Instead, he chose to remain steadfast in his beliefs. Babylon was a city of grandeur and idolatry. Its gods were many, its temples opulent. The allure of its wealth and power was strong. But Daniel's faith was stronger. The Babylonians worshipped power and wealth. Their lives centered around the pursuit of material success. But Daniel knew that true strength came from a higher source.
I remained true to my God. In the face of temptation and pressure, I held fast to my beliefs. I knew that my faith was my greatest strength. I refused to compromise my beliefs. No matter the cost, I would not betray the teachings of my ancestors. My resolve was firm, my path clear. I clung to the teachings of my ancestors. Their wisdom was my guide, their faith my inspiration. In their words, I found the strength to face each day. I knew that the God of Israel was the one true God. In him, I found hope and purpose. His presence was a constant reminder that I was never alone.
Daniel's faith was tested from the start. The grandeur of Babylon was overwhelming, its culture seductive. But Daniel's heart remained true to his God. He was chosen to serve in the king's court, a position of great honor and responsibility. This was both a privilege and a test of his faith. This meant learning the Babylonian language and culture, immersing himself in their ways. It was a challenge, but also an opportunity to grow and learn. It also meant facing pressure to abandon his faith. The expectations were high, the temptations many, but Daniel's resolve was unshakable.
But I stood firm. In the face of adversity, I found strength in my faith. I knew that my God was greater than any challenge I faced. I knew that God was with me. His presence was my comfort, his guidance my light. In him, I found the courage to stand firm. I resolved to honor God in all I did. My faith was my foundation, my guiding star. No matter the trials, I would remain true to my God.
Life in the Babylonian court was filled with temptations. The grandeur and opulence of the palace were overwhelming, with every corner adorned with gold and precious stones. The young men, chosen for their wisdom and potential, were surrounded by luxury and excess. One particular test came in the form of food. The feast tables were laden with the finest meats, exotic fruits, and the richest wines. Servants moved gracefully, offering these delicacies to the young men, enticing them with the aromas and flavors of the king's table. The king's delicacies were rich and tempting. Each dish was a masterpiece, prepared by the best chefs in the kingdom, designed to please the palate and demonstrate the wealth and power of Babylon. However, these foods were often offered to idols. The rituals were an integral part of Babylonian culture, and consuming such food meant participating in these practices, which were against the beliefs of Daniel and his friends. Daniel could not, in good conscience, partake. The thought of defiling himself with food that had been dedicated to false gods was unbearable to him. To do so would violate his faith. Daniel's commitment to his God was unwavering, and he knew that even in a foreign land he had to remain true to his beliefs.
I knew that God had commanded his people to eat only certain foods. These dietary laws were not just about health, but about obedience and holiness. setting God's people apart from the surrounding nations. I could have easily given in. The pressure to conform was immense, and the fear of standing out was real. I could have reasoned that it was just food. After all, what harm could a meal do? But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I could have said that no one would know the difference. In a foreign land, far from home, it would have been easy to compromise. But I knew that God saw everything. His eyes were upon me, and my actions mattered to him. True faith meant obeying God, even in small things. It was in these moments of decision that my faith was truly tested and proven.
So Daniel went to the chief official. He knew that he had to make his stand clear and seek permission to follow his convictions.
The official was hesitant. He had seen many young men come and go, and he understood the importance of the king's orders. He feared for Daniel's health. The diet prescribed by the king was designed to ensure the young men were strong and healthy. He worried what the king would say. Defying the king's orders could have severe consequences, not just for Daniel, but for the official as well.
But I persisted. I proposed a test. I knew that my faith in God would not fail me. For 10 days, I and my friends would eat only vegetables and water. It was a simple diet, but one that we believed would honor God. The others would continue with the king's diet. They indulged in the rich foods and wines, unaware of the test we had set for ourselves. At the end of the 10 days, we would compare our appearance. It was a bold move, but one that would demonstrate the power of faith and obedience to God. When the 10 days were over, we stood before the official. To everyone's surprise, we looked healthier and better nourished than those who had eaten the king's food. The official was amazed. He could not deny the results and allowed us to continue with our chosen diet. We gave thanks to God for his faithfulness. Our decision to honor him had been rewarded, and our faith had been strengthened. As we continued in our studies and service, we grew in wisdom and knowledge. God's favor was upon us, and we excelled in all that we did. In time, we stood before the king, recognized for our wisdom and understanding. Our faith had set us apart, and we were blessed beyond measure. Looking back, I realized that it was our faith and obedience that had brought us this far. In a land of temptation and challenge, we had remained true to our God, and he had honored our faithfulness. Our journey was far from over, but we knew that with God by our side, we could face any challenge. Our faith had been tested and proven, and we were ready for whatever lay ahead.
Daniel's faithfulness did not go unnoticed by God. His unwavering devotion and commitment to his faith were evident in every aspect of his life. Daniel's heart was pure, and his intentions were always aligned with the divine will. This deep connection with God was the foundation of his extraordinary abilities. He was blessed with wisdom and understanding. This wisdom was not just of the earthly kind, but was deeply rooted in spiritual insight. Daniel spent countless hours studying ancient texts, seeking knowledge and understanding that went beyond the ordinary. His mind was a repository of divine wisdom, and his heart was a vessel of God's truth. He had a gift for interpreting dreams and visions. This gift was a rare and precious one, allowing him to see beyond the veil of the physical world and into the realm of the divine. Daniel's interpretations were not mere guesses, they were revelations from God, providing clarity and guidance in times of uncertainty. This gift would soon make him an invaluable asset to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king, a powerful ruler with vast responsibilities, often found himself troubled by dreams and visions that he could not understand. In these moments of confusion, Daniel's gift became a beacon of hope and clarity.
The king had a series of troubling dreams. These dreams were not ordinary. They were filled with symbols and messages that seemed to hold great significance. Night after night, the king was tormented by these visions, unable to find peace or rest. He called upon his wise men and astrologers. These were the most learned men in the kingdom, skilled in the arts of divination and interpretation. They gathered in the royal court, poring over scrolls and ancient texts, trying to decipher the meaning of the king's dreams. But none could interpret them. Despite their knowledge and expertise, the wise men and astrologers were baffled. The dreams were beyond their understanding, and their attempts to interpret them only led to more confusion and frustration.
Daniel heard of the king's distress. News of the king's troubled state spread throughout the kingdom, reaching Daniel's ears. He felt a deep sense of compassion for the king and a strong conviction that he could help. He stepped forward with confidence. Daniel's faith in God gave him the courage to approach the king. He knew that his gift was not his own, but a divine endowment meant to serve a greater purpose. He knew that God could reveal the meaning of the dreams. Daniel's confidence was not in his own abilities, but in the power of God. He believed wholeheartedly that God would provide the answers the king sought. He asked the king for a chance to interpret. With humility and respect, Daniel approached King Nebuchadnezzar, requesting an opportunity to interpret the dreams. He assured the king that the answers would come from God.
Nebuchadnezzar, desperate for answers, agreed. The king, in his desperation, was willing to try anything. He saw in Daniel a glimmer of hope and agreed to give him the chance to interpret the dreams.
Daniel prayed to God for guidance. In the quiet of his room, Daniel knelt in prayer, seeking divine guidance. He poured out his heart to God, asking for wisdom and understanding to interpret the king's dreams. God, in his mercy, revealed the meaning of the dreams. In response to Daniel's earnest prayers, God revealed the meaning of the dreams. The visions that had troubled the king were now clear in Daniel's mind, illuminated by divine revelation.
I returned to the king. With the revelation in his heart, Daniel returned to the king, ready to share the divine message. I not only interpreted the dreams, but also revealed the thoughts of the king's heart. Daniel's interpretation went beyond the dreams themselves. He revealed the innermost thoughts and concerns of the king, showing a deep understanding that could only come from God.
Nebuchadnezzar was astonished. The king was taken aback by the accuracy and depth of Daniel's interpretation. He realized that this was no ordinary wisdom. He recognized that Daniel possessed a wisdom beyond human understanding. The king saw that Daniel's wisdom was of a divine nature, far surpassing that of his own wise men and astrologers. He realized that Daniel's God was the true God. In that moment of revelation, King Nebuchadnezzar acknowledged the power and truth of Daniel's God. He saw the divine hand at work and was humbled by the experience. He promoted Daniel to a high position in his kingdom. In recognition of Daniel's extraordinary gift and the divine wisdom he possessed, the king elevated him to a high position in the kingdom, entrusting him with great responsibility and honor. Daniel's rise to prominence did not come without challenges. His faithfulness to God continued to be tested.
In my pride, I erected a giant golden statue. I commanded everyone to bow down and worship it.
Daniel's friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused. They knew that worshipping any god but the God of Israel was wrong.
Enraged by their defiance, I had them thrown into a fiery furnace. The flames were so hot that they killed the guards who threw them in.
Yet miraculously, the three men emerged from the furnace unharmed. Nebuchadnezzar was astounded. He had witnessed the power of the one true God.
This event further solidified Daniel's position in the kingdom. It also served as a powerful reminder. It showed that God protects those who remain faithful to him.
Even in the face of death, God is with his people. He will never abandon those who trust in him. Daniel's integrity and unwavering faith continued to shine through the reigns of several Babylonian kings. However, his success and influence stirred jealousy among some officials. They plotted against him, looking for a way to discredit him.
They persuaded me to issue a decree. It forbade anyone from praying to any god or man except myself. Anyone who disobeyed would be thrown into a den of lions. This was a trap specifically designed to ensnare Daniel.
Daniel was faced with a difficult choice. He could obey the king's decree and compromise his faith, or he could stay true to God and face the consequences.
I did not hesitate. Obeying God is more important than any earthly decree. I continued to pray openly, 3 times a day, just as I always had.
Daniel's unwavering faith and courage under pressure would soon lead to another miraculous event, demonstrating once again that God is always with those who trust in him.